we're going to take a look at our own tier list for some notable and noteworthy villains across several different anime. So this should be quite a thrilling video. Let's get into it. Let's get to it. So simple tier list today. Just five groups from S to D, with S being the highest tier. Um, just gonna rank these villains on what we think on their power level, their intelligence, strategic thinking, things of that nature, and just how iconic or well-rounded they are.
So the question is though, are you going for how powerful they are or how realistic their abilities are or if they make sense in the context of the story they're in?
Um, I'm I'm going more so on not only their powers, on what they're like, but also what are their end goals and what are their intellect and strategies for attaining those goals that they have,
Fair enough.
and and maybe seeing out how they would fare. Um, so starting off with the first villain that we have on the list is, I'm sure pretty much everybody knows this guy, but starting off with the Black Wizard Zera from Fairy Tail. So just to give a little bit of insight into him, this dude was known as the Black Wizard, and also because of his curse of contradiction, he's been, according to the data books, been living for about 400 or so years, which is quite a long time if you think about
Probably
it.
older than everyone else here, probably besides what? How's Ukiora?
Um, that's a good question. Prob I'm guessing probably at least 1 or 200 years.
I'm gonna check real quick just so we can quantify that.
Yep. Yeah, the only ones that's probably close to his age would probably be Ukiura and Aizen on the list.
300.
So not as much, but pretty close up there.
So hold on, I'm asking, did you do two from each series? I see.
Um,
No,
not
I see
necessarily.
three from Naruto. I see
Yeah,
one, two from Bleach, one from Fairy Tail.
two
Oh,
from Boku no Hero and one from Akame ga Kill.
Kame no Kill. All right. So, well, I am not the biggest Fairy Tail connoisseur. So, when it comes to your Black Wizard friend, that's gonna be all on you.
All right. So as stated before, Zeref's been living for about 400 years, and with him, so he has this power called the Curse of Contradiction. So the more he cares about life, the more folks and animals and trees and whatever living organic matter around him actually dies off.
That doesn't sound fun.
So it's definitely not fun to accidentally kill off your family and friends. So you have to
And
live
is
with,
that why he has a bad attitude?
kind of sorta, because for quite some time until the Tenro Island arc and Fairy Tale, Zareth was more or less this kind, loving type of dude. He didn't want to hurt anybody, which kind of sucks given his contradiction curse, as he was killing folks left and right accidentally. However,
Fair.
after his inner self was awakened during the Tenro Island arc, due to the actions of the Grimoire Heart guild, led by their guildmaster Hades, which actually was the second guildmaster for Fairy Tail who went rogue after he left. So there's that little fun tidbit. So after that, Zerov shed his old kind personality to adopt more of a black-hearted, evil tyrant, so to say.
Okay.
So as a result, he gained some of those typical villainous tropes and the like, but his curse of contradiction, as a result, didn't take the lives or reap the lives of those around him. So afterwards, he went to a neighboring country of the main fairy tale continent, and he really took control of their empire and made it and formed it into the Alvarez Empire, which turns out to be the entire plot point of the last main part of the fairy tale series, the Alvarez arc. So as a result, um, even though due to fairy tale companions he was known as Zerov, over to Alvarez he was known as the Emperor Spriggan, or the leader of the entire continent.
All right.
And underneath him he ruled over what's known as 12 Spriggan, or 12 powerful people and entities who controlled good pretty good powers, if I must say so myself, which could be a video in the future. And kind of kept them under control as everyone knew how powerful he was. But so his whole main goal was to amass enough power, enough military might to wage war against fairy tales in hope of obtaining what's called the fairy heart, which is actually the body of the first fairy tale master Mavis. Due to her being in some sort of chronostasis, so as a result, her massive quantities of magical power was still emanating from her because, oddly enough, she was the only other person in the world that shared Zeref's fate in the Curse of Contradiction. So they were kind of drawn together and kind of a sort of. I kind of want the other part of other power for myself, for Zeref.
Fair enough.
And
Where does he compare to your love for who? If I had to guess who your favorite character was off this list, it's probably Isaac. But I don't. That's just guessing. This
how
is guessing.
you would be correct in that. And that's
So we could go ahead. We could go ahead and put Eisen up on it. Probably S rank, even though due to how he was written, he might need to be on the F rank because it doesn't just make sense. He's all powerful for no reason. There's no origin. There's no reason behind his power. He's just the plot says he's more powerful, and he's still powerful. Even still, the way he's the most powerful thing in the universe.
yep.
Um, I'm like he's like all knowing. He has like all of the different arts, all the different spells in Bleach. Um, he controls everyone's mind perfectly. Everyone's in an endless like dream when fighting or dealing with him at all. He's overpowered. It doesn't make sense that Ichigo beat him. It didn't make any sense. But I mean, I'm happy because he was so overpowered. He needed to die, and of course, he doesn't even die. So there you go. He's
Yep.
just in prison and barely that.
Yep. That is true. He does have a frightening amount of spiritual pressure and and a frightening Zanpakuto power and Kyoka Suigetsu. But when it comes to Aizen, I think the the scariest part about him is his intellect. Uh,
Yeah. I
but
mean, that's fair because he knows everything.
yep, because I can't remember in what chapter or episode it was, but Aizen even told Ichigo to his face, "Yeah, I've been planning all along for hundreds of years. I knew when you were born. I set up all of these fights just to test your power." So that it takes somebody with a genius level of intellect and a very good plan and strategic mindset to really pull off something like that.
Cool.
And just to
I
and just combine that with the illusionary powers of his Kyokusui is just OP over OP.
Yeah. And does he even ever need to use his Bankai? I guess not because he's so powerful.
Yeah,
Like even if the world's ending, even if he's gonna lose the Ichigo, never use it.
you know, it's a interesting thing that you mentioned is Bankai. It's just his genius intellect and his Shikai is just so powerful and his spiritual pressure that he never needed a Bankai. His Bankai was never revealed.
All right, so let's move on to.
So we can probably put Aizen in the S tier of just how dangerous he is as an anime villain. He's not somebody you want to mess with in a dark alley.
So while we're doing it, let's go ahead and handle Ukiora real quick as well.
Okay.
I mean, he had a good few episodes, I guess, when he blew a hole in Ichigo. Outside of that, he. Uh,
The the first or the second time he blew a hole in Ichigo.
I guess the second time. But I mean, outside of that, I don't know what else we need to do with him. Where do you feel he falls on it? I give him a C or D, truthfully.
Um, I would probably say that Ukiyo, I would say, is maybe like either B or C.
Awesome.
Um,
All right, let's go for C.
yep. And
Is he a better or worse character than Orochimaru?
hmm, that's a good question. Was when it comes to Okiora, his whole stick was he knew nothing but loneliness and kind of sort of being an outcast his entire life for being a mainly white color as opposed to the general black color of every other hollow. So
That's fair.
yeah,
But even still, is his story as compelling as Orochimaru? Like Orochimaru actually has depth of character.
yeah, that's true. S- Quite a bit of depth, and his downward spiral to being a maniac, pretty much, stems from the loss of both of his parents from an early age.
And that's truthfully the only reason why I would probably put him one tier lower. Because where would you put Orochimaru? I don't think he deserves A. He's either a B or C.
I would probably put him as a B,
Okay.
and the reason why I would kind of put Orochimaru as a B instead of like maybe an A is while his showings in early to mid Naruto is pretty good, I think, in terms of his planning, his evil maniac, and that type of stuff. I kind of feel like after Naruto ended, he kind of made too much of a 180 turn, where it's like,
I don't necessarily mind him turning because he propelled a big part of the initial series. All right, he was the motivation behind the attack on the Hidden Leaf. he was the motivation for Sasuke to run away, and then Naruto to chase Sasuke, and then all that stuff that unfolded. That was all because of Orochimaru. He was the introduction to the Akatsuki, and ultimately, Kabuto, possessed by Orochimaru, is the reason why we had the war to begin with. Um,
Yeah, yeah, I would agree with that. And it was Orochimaru that kind of reminded Sasuke about what his goals were in terms of getting his revenge on Itachi.
and so, like again, Orochimaru, is he my favorite villain? No, he makes me feel creepy half the time. He's a weird guy. That's a weird guy,
Yep.
or sometimes a weird girl, depending on what body he has, because you know.
Was he
But
was he was inhabiting a female body when he fought the third Hokage during the Chunin exams? Yeah, if you remember that.
I'm okay with putting Orochimaru where he is at the moment, A or B. Um, but here's another question then: who would you put in D tier at all? Let's
Uh,
knock them out really quickly, because someone has to go in the D tier.
yeah. Honestly, I would probably put Zeroth in the D tier, me personally. Um, cause, cause, yeah, his initial goals was to bring back his little brother, Natsu, but, but kind of like after he gained that curse of contradiction, it kind of just spiraled downhill from there. It makes me wonder, um, if he kind of makes me wonder why if he could have had a better mental state to keep that curse under control to some degree, or or at least
That's
not
fair.
fall prey to other evil folks.
All right. So Nan, here's my main question: where do you want to put Madeira?
Uh,
Truthfully, Naruto would have still been a good show if he never appeared. But I appreciate his presence because he has some of the best fight scenes in the entire thing. He
mhm.
also issued in a whole new level of power creep in a single anime.
I I do agree with. I'm sure a lot of folks who watched the war arc in Naruto would probably remember when Madara was first revived. Um, he he pretty much took out a good like half of the fourth division through taijutsu alone.
Yep. Right before he fought the five Kages
Yep. And
and
not
tore
only
them all
that,
up with perfect Susanus, an army of perfect Susanus.
and on that note, a quote that I always find interesting is so when Madara fought the five Kage, it was 1v5. At some point during the battle, he created 25 wood clones and asked the Kage, "Do you want these clones to use Susanoo or nah?" Uh, And I'm like, "What kind of villain does that?"
Someone that's too overpowered.
Yeah.
But where do you put? Do you think he's a better character than Aizen?
Um. Hmm.
I think they technically his backstory is a little bit stronger than Aizen's. Aizen, why is he doing any of it? Because he wants to. Aizen's like, I'm just gonna play dead, and then oh, I'm not dead at all. I'm all powerful. I did it all so I can get something to make me even more powerful. And then later, I created Ichigo. I made sure that your parents met, so you were born. I'm all powerful. I know the future and the past and everything. But that's Aizen.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, although I did hear kind of sort of like a rumor, but it was kind of stated in this show that he might have wanted to bolster up the strength of Ichigo just so he
Yeah,
can have somebody to
to fight
fight
because he was
equally
bored.
on.
I mean, Madara. In some ways, their motivations are fairly similar, except Madara had a goal. Madara, his goal was to he just want everyone to go to sleep forever, in war for once and for all.
Yep.
Endless Tsukuyomi.
Yeah, and that kind of
Yeah.
stemmed from,
Go night night. Go night night. Okay, go ahead.
and that mainly stemmed from when he was younger during the Warring States era, where he lost most of his younger brothers except for Izuna, and and a little bit later on he even lost Izuna to Tobirama. So I think that whole mindset or mind frame of Madara kind of really stemmed from that, and that's kind of where he awoken his Sharingan and his Mangekyo,
Hmm.
uh, and just that whole stage of I don't want anybody else suffering through that, but he doesn't really lock eyes fully with his arch rival Hashirama. So I guess
Yeah.
in backstories, I kind of like Madara's backstory a little bit more than Aizen.
I know that. But that's tough then. Who deserves to go higher? Because I know who I think has the best backstory on the list, but I'll wait to say that.
I, I, I would be I would be fine to put Madara as S tier and Aizen as maybe A or A tier.
I agree completely.
Yeah,
I mean, Orochimaru has a better story than Aizen, but Aizen is Aizen though. So Sky Aizen. So that A for Aizen.
yeah.
But in reality, the only person on here that I feel kind of deserves to be an S tier, even though Madara's all powerful. Because if we're talking about power, yeah, sure. Um, and Aizen, I mean, both of them up there. Pain
Yeah.
is one of the best developed characters. Pain deserves an S. Pain deserves to be in front of Madara, even though Madara is technically, pulling the strings in terms of backstory, right?
Hmm.
You, so the question is, are you talking about Yahiko? Are you talking about Nagato? Are you talking about? I guess we could talk about all of it, right? The motivate, like number one, they trained by Jiraiya. Naruto's trained by Jiraiya, right? Naruto Daddy trained by Jiraiya, right?
Hmm.
So that you have this kinship. In a way, he's almost like he was the child of legend that was initially written about that Naruto was based off of, right?
Yep.
And you
Yeah.
understand his motivations, right?
Yep. He witnesses parents dying during the what was it, the third Shinobi World War, I believe it was. No, the second one. I want to say, and he just saw what the whole his whole country was under, being stuck in the middle of a vast feud between the Fire Nation, or the Land of Fire, the Land of Wind, and the Land of Earth. Was the Rain Village, that it's pretty hard being in no man's land, pretty much for your home.
After being an orphan, like,
Yep.
or I guess that led to them being an orphan in the first place.
Yep.
Um,
And
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 Yahiko was the leader. He was the mastermind behind everything, and then he died too.
uh, and not just dying, but to be betrayed and killed right in front of his eyes by the coalition
Hanzo,
of
was that
Hanzo and
Hanzo?
Danzo. That
And
that
then, but that turns into flipping our initial use of the Renegon. I, amazing, right?
yeah,
Nagato, amazing.
yeah. The
Him killing Jiraiya, one of the most epic anime deaths of all time.
yeah.
Unexpected, dramatic,
I think
pulling all your emotions.
I think just about everybody felt some type of feels when going through that battle. Because I think Jiraiya was a pretty well loved character in the Naruto universe. Yeah, and to just see the fight between master and student play out how it was, I think that was a beautiful fight.
So that was an emotional fight, right? Jiraiya, you think he finally got the upper hand? He disables three of them, right?
Hmm.
Defeats three of them. You think it's over? Cool. All of a sudden, oh, they're all back. There's six of them now, and not only that, he's left with a decision. Do I escape because that's an option,
Hmm.
right? Or do I try to escape, or do I need to confirm a suspicion, confirm some identities, and relay the important information, which is Pain is none of these people. Right? These are all people I know from the past that are dead. Right? Without that knowledge, they probably would have lost because Pain would have just been like, "I'm gonna get more bodies and I'm gonna go kill Naruto."
And and if you think about it, I think that Jiraiya made the right decision in
He
that,
did.
because when you look at war and everything like that, information is the most valuable thing to any one side. Without information, you already lost the war.
I agree.
Yeah.
So even that and then he went and blew up the Leaf Village by himself. He had Orochimaru. He tried to bring all these troops in to do it. Pain just brought Nagato. He wasn't even there. Nagato just had six of his people there. Mind controlling all of them. Flipping blew a crater in the village. Killed random amount of people, and then fought Naruto. And then flipping Naruto magically somehow. Should Naruto have won that? Probably not, but he got flipping Kurama. Kurama came in and was like, Beast mode activate, I got you.
Uh, it's probably all
I don't
thanks
want
to
to get got you.
Hinata, though.
Now, after Naruto got sealed in a moon in the sky. That's what happened to Naruto. Pain made a moon and was like, Naruto, you're the core of my moon. Right.
Yeah.
I'll just have you orbiting. You'll be orbiting me from now on. That was epic, right?
Yeah. But on the flip side of that coin, if that we did get to witness the first reunion of father and son, so that was, I guess, kind of
Yeah,
cool. Just
that was cool.
just seeing how Naruto reacts to, oh wait, I'm the son of the fourth Hokage. Why did nobody tell
That
me this?
that's the climax of Naruto right there. Well, one of them. They had many other ones, but that was the first one. It was like, oh, that that was a big deal.
Yeah,
So that's why I feel like on this list he's the best. He most definitely is the best.
I
Um,
would definitely agree with that, hands down.
all right.
So next up we have a little somebody from Boku no Hero called the Hero Killer Stain. What's your thoughts on him?
I'm still not up to date on that. I'm still behind. That's something I have queued up to watch. I started episode one. So when it comes to actually those whole three, I'm gonna have to let you make your judgment calls on it. You gonna make it all by EA. This is all.
So when it comes to the Hero Killer Stain, he was introduced in season two of My Hero Academia, um, and his whole goal was to pretty much either kill or disable heroes who were in the hero line of work just for profit. He wanted the hero line of work to just be reserved for those heroes who actually wanted to save people and make a difference in the world, which I think is actually one of the few times the anime villain's whole goal is actually pretty relatable, and you can think to yourself, say, yeah, I can understand where this guy is getting that from. So so that is I think a good part of Stain. Um, and he even said that the only hero he recognizes is All Might, and he should be the only one to be able to take him down. Which, if you watched that season of my hero, then it takes the combined efforts of a few students to take him down. But his quirk or his power is pretty much the ingestion of someone's blood, and based on their blood type, he could more or less paralyze them for some X amount of minutes, which could make all the difference in the battle. Henceforth is why he's such a great blade user, from daggers to swords to everything in battle.
Hmm.
So I think in terms of powers and abilities, it's probably not too significant, even though it's pretty useful if you can get it off. But nothing too overpowered, I don't think. But in terms of ideology, pro- I would probably give it a better score than some of the other villains in other anime and the like. I would probably
So
give.
where are you gonna put him?
I'm thinking either B or C. Um,
Again, I don't feel like Ulquiorra has any story at all, so go put on there. I did like it though. His release was cool. Ulquiorra. I
especially his
think a
second
C.
one.
I think C is good.
Yeah, I think so too. Also because he didn't really get much or any screen time after his little mini arc. Which is a shame because I kind of liked him.
Just because you like them, they put them away.
Yep. So next up we have the big boss of My Hero Academia, known as Alpha One. Um, this dude is comparable in power to All Might, and his whole thing is he can forcibly take and give quirks from other people. So most people are born with only one quirk. This guy can forcibly steal those quirks from other folks and take them into his own body, allowing him to have many quirks at the same time, which could be pretty frightening in of itself. Um, but the thing that I find interesting is his power is this kind of a sort of stark contrast to his brother and the original holder of One for All, as the whole the whole thing of One for All is taking everybody is amassing power for yourself and then passing it down throughout the generations. In effect, um, increasing the power of that quirk and allowing anyone and everyone to benefit from it, instead of just one person. So it's kind of like the light and darkness contrast, if you would say.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah. And
So where is he going? B, A, or S?
hmm, um, I'm I'm thinking either A or B, maybe B though.
Oh,
But
so he's not quite at Aizen's level of in terms of character.
um, and I say that only because at my current level of knowledge of him, it's probably in that section of the tier list.
Hmm.
What's your thoughts on that?
I think that's fair.
Hmm. Probably put him here for now.
You would compare him to Orochimaru, ultimately.
Yeah, because I don't think he's as powerful as Aizen in any ways. Although he is powerful, just not in terms of some of the stuff that the folks higher than him are. So So the last but not least choice on this is Esdeath from Akame ga Kill, which is more or less the ice general of the whole evil and corrupt government of the capital, and her powers involved usage of a special tattoo, which is one of the Tengus, or this anime's special powers, which is, if I remember correctly, there's either 50 or 100 of them in total. And what this power grants her is the domination over any and all things ice. So she can control ice, create ice, manipulate ice, anything with ice. So even in the middle of the desert, she could probably create some ice. Although she's probably a lot more dangerous in the Arctic, but I think the whole part of her that really cements her into an an evil character is just she is very sadistic and violent towards whoever and whatever she's trying to accomplish. She lives for violence, and from her backstory, she was raised by her father and tribe in more or less Darwinism and survival of the fittest. And when her entire tribe was killed off by some monsters, she chalked it up to her tribe not being strong enough to combat that monster. So she took it upon herself to really ensure that she was the strongest at all times, and to always wage war, wage battle to assert her dominance um, over every and anybody else. And she kind of found that fun. But partway through the story, she starts to find herself wanting a mate or somebody to share her life with, which is how admirable, but which is how she kind of met with the whole main protagonist of Akame ga Kill. And at first she was all over him and doting and everything until it was revealed that that the main protagonist was with the Night Raids, which was a group of assassins combating the capital. So she kind of didn't appreciate that too much, although her love for him kind of still remained there, um, which she couldn't bear to kill him that much. So as a result, after the whole revolt in the capital, um, and the death of her lover, more or less, the struggle of not being able to be with him anymore kind of got to her, and she decided to commit suicide via ice, um, encasing herself and main protagonist in ice together so that they can always be together. So I would probably say that's a little bit of a turnaround in terms of an evil character, but maybe not as much as Pain or some of the other folks. But overall, I would probably give her maybe like a C in terms of villains, because she was terrifying, but she seemed to be all in it for just violence and chaoticness.
I see.
What's your thoughts on
So you
that?
said C range.
hmm What's your thoughts on that?
Sounds like it. Sounds like we have a complete list. At least this is from our perspective.
Yeah.